Hey, honey.
Yes, Barry?
Let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Este ritmo de palmas, sin naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Porta Vallarta Travel Show. I am your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Maybe it's even yours, and if it's not, well, one day it's going to be, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're just listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Mr. Perez is the owner of the Palapa group of restaurants. Those are the Palapa, the El Dorado restaurant, and now, at night, for dinner, the El Dorado transforms into the Vista Grill. That's the Vista Grill that used to be up on the hill, and now it has a new Vista right on the beach, where you get the same Vista Grill menu and the fantastic Vista Grill service. And what's best is it's right there on the beach with a dramatic view of the Los Muertos Pier. You'll recognize that pier. It is that stunning sail-like structure that's all lit up at night with beautiful colors. And you can enjoy dinner under the stars with your toes in the sand right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. Today we have a very special guest, but first, what's happening in Puerto Vallarta this week, the 12th of June, 2017. We had our first sprinkling of the summer just the other day. It was a tease, though. But this week, this is the week that the rains are going to return to Vallarta. I'm going to be waiting to see if we get rain on my birthday, June 15th, which, according to our buddy JR, is the beginning of the rainy season in the tropics. So stay tuned for that report coming next week. Now, I was reading an article in the Banderas News which explained the absence of the Galante pirate ship the last time I was down in Puerto Vallarta in May. Now, if you don't know what the Galante is, it is, well, I didn't know this, but it's actually a replica of the Santa Maria, one of the three ships that Columbus sailed across the Atlantic. And the Galante is a Spanish galleon, and you may have seen it out on the bay. You can see her heading, in the morning, she heads south, and to one of the cool beaches there beyond Los Arcos. I believe it goes to a beach cove right off that resort, Mahuetes. That's the one that Diana Edelman was talking about on episode 15. And I guess they go down there and they play around and they have lunch. Anyway, every night you'll see that boat, and it is going to be in the bay right off the Malecon, and it shoots off fireworks, usually between 9 and 9:30 every evening. But anyway, the boat is in dry dock. It set for sail to Mazatlan, and they hauled her out of the water, and so she'll be back again on Monday, June the 19th, and she's going to have a whole new look, and she's going to have all new shows. I reached out to the Galante people. They were really nice. They sent me some great photos, which I have on my website, and you can find those at PuertoVallartaTravelShow.com. I think we're on episode 23, if I'm not mistaken. And anyway, The last time they pulled her out of the water was in 2015, so they do this every 2 years. And one of the main tasks that was performed was to make sure that it was completely watertight. It's 100% wood galleon. It's not fiberglass. It's made out of real wood. So there were no leaks, but they did have to replace a lot of wood. They let's see what they did here. They replaced 60 tons of wood and put in some stainless steel rods. Over 850 liters of paint and 350 liters of varnish were slathered on her, and just lots of TLC. It cost 10 million pesos, or about $500,000 US, a little more than that, to fix her up. And there was additional work that was done. They put in a new engine. They serviced the generator and the transmission and the propeller, and they replaced the bow and stern decks. And there was a team of experts that reinforced the boat's keel and rudder, and they did some general renovating and decorating. And this boat weighs about 700 tons, has 3 wooden masts, and a total capacity of about 240 passengers. Now, I've had several people tell me that although the pirate ship cruise is a little touristy and a little bit hokey, all of them said that the food was good and the alcohol flowed freely. So it sounds good to me. Also, it seems to me that the tour gives you a great opportunity to see the Malecon at night from a whole different perspective if you take that night cruise. That is, from the ocean, looking in towards the Malecon, with everybody else kind of staring back at you. And, of course, there's those fireworks that they shoot off, and they've polished off their show, so it's interesting. Look, I didn't want this to turn into a commercial for the Galante, but I guess it kind of was. If you've taken the cruise, either during the day or night, do me a favor and email me and let me know what you thought of it. Let me know how you bought the tickets, because there's all kinds of ways that you can get those tickets. Sometimes they give them away. Those usually are the people who are looking to sell you a timeshare. But tell me how much you paid for the tickets, and what did you think of the show, and was it worth the money? So let me know. That would be really cool. You just go to portavallartatravelshow.com, go to the Contact Me, Contact Us little tab, click on that, and send me off a message. Okay. How many of you vacationers who travel to Mexico buy travel insurance before you leave for your trip? You don't? Well, how about this warning from the U.S. State Department? It reads, U.S. citizens should be aware of their rights under Mexican law. Most Mexican healthcare facilities require payment up front prior to performing a procedure. Most hospitals in Mexico do not accept U.S. domestic health insurance or Medicare or Medicaid, and will only accept payment via cash, credit or debit card, or bank transfer. What do you think about that? Well, how about this headline? Medical bills leave Lafayette woman stranded in Mexico. How about this one? Man trapped in Mexican hospital with allergic reaction to a jellyfish sting and a $50,000 bill. Now look, there's numerous articles that you can find with a simple Google search that's going to tell you something that many of you and many of us never really think of when we go to Mexico on vacation. What happens if something happens to us when we're in paradise? In fact, we talked about the subject of hospitals and doctors in Puerto Vallarta with Brad and Tammy a while back. I think it was episode 18. And Brad and Tammy, while they were having fun in Puerto Vallarta, had several incidents where they needed some medical attention. And they luckily had traveler's insurance that actually covered their medical bills, so they had some good insurance for that. So that brings us to our very special guest, Pamela Thompson of Healthcare Resources in Puerto Vallarta. Now, I was introduced to Pamela by several of my friends here who insisted that she is the go-to person when it comes to healthcare in Puerto Vallarta. She does just so much here. You're going to see that she's involved in so many facets of the medical world, although her main thrust is medical tourism, and I was really surprised at the types of medical procedures that she arranges for her clients while they're in paradise. It's kind of cool, really, but, well, this is going to be very informative, and I would like to wrap it up at the end with a quick review and a good reviewable set of show notes, too. So let's go to San Javier Hospital in Puerto Vallarta and join up with Pamela Thompson. All right, I'm in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, ladies and gentlemen, and I have the honor of being here with Pamela Thompson of Healthcare Resources in Puerto Vallarta. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Pamela.
Thank you for having me.
Now, it seems like you are the go-to person, the go-to expert, according to all the local community anyway. And so first of all, tell us about yourself and what was the path that led you to Puerto Vallarta?
I used to come here for vacation. Did that for many, many years. Fell in love with the place. Like everybody, has to be the right time to move here. So I did. Almost 28 years ago, moved here full time. Worked in tourism for a while. Wanted to get back into healthcare. After doing a few other things in tourism, went to work with air evacuation, and long story, but eventually worked my way into opening healthcare resources.
Okay, so healthcare resources, you're located where?
All over the place.
Everywhere.
I have my main office is at Hospital San Javier, but I also work with a couple other hospitals. I work with 26 physicians and a couple diagnostic companies. We're an independent company.
Excellent. Okay. Well, sure seems like you found your niche here.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, this is a retirement town, I would think. On top of it being a big tourist destination, a lot of expats are moving here and living here. There's a lot of aging expats here. So what kind of medical plans do these expats get down in Mexico?
First, I think you'd be really surprised that it's not just the retired and aging. The past couple years, we've had way more people who are that are much younger than what used to be. Have way more requests now for gynecologists, and that's not just for menopause, it's for pregnant women. A lot more requests for pediatricians. People are moving here that have small children. So it's a wide range of people moving here because now people can work from home online.
Yeah.
They can work, be located anywhere in the world. So we have a wide, it's not just, over 65 type age group anymore.
Yeah.
It's a lot of baby boomers and what are they called? Millennials now that are moving here.
Yeah, I noticed that. All right. Well, that is interesting. And some of the restaurateurs that I spoke with, very young. They got young families. They've chosen to come here,
Right.
to start a business,
Exactly.
live here, raise their families here. So yeah, you're right. All right. So what kind of medical insurance do these people get?
It varies. There's international policies. These are policies for people that live or work outside of their home country, either full or part-time. Sometimes they get a traveler's insurance. You can purchase a traveler's insurance for a couple days up to a year. Sometimes people purchase a Mexican private policy. You have to have permanent residency to purchase a Mexican private policy.
Okay. So
it's a little bit, the older you get, a little bit more difficult to purchase a policy. I think maybe you're going to ask me later, but Medicare doesn't cover anything outside of the United States. Sometimes people that have Medicare and a supplement, then I recommend that you have a good air evacuation policy so that if you have a critical medical situation, you have an air evac policy that can take you back back to the United States.
Yeah, that's smart. So you would say supplement what you have in the States if you are receiving Medicare or Medicaid, then basically have yourself something that you can use local for the small stuff.
The most important thing is to have a plan. Do your homework. See what works here. See what's covered here. See what's accepted here. Make a plan before you come down or as soon as you get here.
Okay, good. All right. And so how would you go about doing that? I mean, you just go online, you pick up the phone and...
Well, we have a lot of people email me ahead of time. Or maybe when they come down and they're looking either for a place to rent or they're looking at property to buy. A lot of times real estate agencies or real estate agents will give their clients my number, and we're more than happy to sit down, have a chat, go over general healthcare information. It's not just about health insurance. It's about making sure maybe you have medications that you have to take. We want to make sure they're available here. You want to check and see how much they cost. Maybe you have a cardiac issues. You want to make sure that you connect with a cardiologist here. There's a lot of different issues. You want to make sure and do your homework, have everything in place once you get here, rather than wait until you're in the middle of an emergency.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I'll have your contact information on the blog post for this particular episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. You'll be able to find it there. And great. Okay, so what would you say is the most common issue that you deal with as far as the aging population here?
Oh my goodness! There's urgent issues, and they're the most.
Well, maybe there isn't. Maybe just it runs the gamut.
It runs the gamut.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything from I have an earache to my husband just died.
Oh.
I mean, it's a wide variety.
Yeah.
It's a wide variety.
Well, there's
I never have a boring day.
I bet you don't. Well, here in Puerto Vallarta, would you say that like trip falls and stuff like that, broken ankles, broken wrists and stuff like that are
well, you keep
pretty
saying
common?
Aging population. I
mean
guess I'm in
real.
that aging population.
Me too.
Yeah, we have a lot of, falls, hip replacements, those kind of things. Yeah, orthopedic things. The cobblestones streets are kind of hard to maneuver sometimes.
Yeah, I noticed.
So a lot of orthopedic issues. I think so.
Okay.
No, there really isn't any one specific thing.
It's like normal. It's like at home, right?
Just like in the United States and Canada.
Yeah, okay. Well, speaking of that, let's talk about Mexican citizens. What kind of medical insurance what do they have? What do they use for medical
There's no
issues?
such thing as free medical care here. Doesn't matter how poor you are. There's a vast difference between the public system and the private system. And that's important for people that are going to be moving here to understand. The public system is the system that all the private hospitals, the private system is what the private hospitals fall under, and most of the doctors that I work with. The public system is the IMSS system and the regional hospital. That's the IMSS and Seguro Popular. Seguro Popular was created for the poorest of the poor by one of the ex-presidents of Mexico. I don't know how many years ago. But it's because there is no such thing as free medical care in Mexico. Many times people, non-Mexicans, have this idea that they're going to come down here and have free medical care, or they're going to participate in the IMSS or the Seguro Popular system. They can. But they need to go take a look at the system. It's a vast difference than the private system. The regional hospital is, it's a sad place. I would suggest that they go and take a look. Ask any Mexican what they think about it. We collect donations for there. You need to take your own soap. You need to take your own shampoo. The staff there is wonderful. They work very, very, very hard with minimal resources. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe in other places in Mexico it's different. I have heard, but it's overcrowded, minimal resources. It's not a pleasant place. And again, the staff works extremely hard with minimal resources. It's not. I wouldn't ever consider IMSS or Seguro Popular an insurance. But in some cases, that's what people have to have. Mm-hmm. If one goes to a private hospital and they can't pay the bill, then we have to send them on to the state hospital.
Well, yeah.
And
that's like going off to Siberia.
No, not really. Not really, because they're going to get the best care that they can give out there.
Okay.
But it's going to be very different than the private system. I have volunteers that will go out and visit them and take soap and food and things like that. Mm-hmm. I just encourage people that think that it's, the perfect system to go out and look at it first.
Right. Yeah. And it sounds a little scary.
It is, but and it's a sad situation, and mostly for, it's for Mexicans, and I oftentimes feel bad when I have to send a non-Mexican out there, because in reality, I feel those beds are for deserving Mexicans. Mm-hmm. But that's a personal feeling.
No, I understand. I agree with you. All right. So people come here for, they don't come here expecting to get sick or anything like that. So, but people do come down here for medical tourism. Do you get involved in the medical tourism field?
We have many people that come down specifically to have medical services. Mm-hmm. It used to be years ago that people just came for plastic surgery or bariatric surgery. Okay. Now they come for everything from hip replacement to cataract surgery, knee replacements. And I kind of look at medical tourism as a little bit different. In the high season, when I have, for example, this last high season, I probably scheduled more MRIs than I ever have. And that was because I would get emails and phone calls. Somebody on the beach gave me your phone number. I'm from Canada. I've been waiting for months for an MRI. How soon can I get one here? Well, I can get you scheduled tomorrow. Okay, so then we set it up. To me, that's kind of medical tourism as well. Yeah. Or same with a colonoscopy or an endoscopy, regular type procedures. Mm-hmm. So to me, diagnostic services are sort of a medical tourism as well. Yeah, although you would never think that. You go, oh yeah, you're coming in for a lift or this or that. Sure. You never think, hey, I'll stop in for an endoscopy or whatever, right? Or we have people that come in the high season that plan ahead and they go ahead and get all their yearly studies done while they're here. Their mammogram, their checkups, their physicals, everything, the dermatology checks while they're here. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's medical tourism as well. But as well, we also have the plastic surgery and the big surgeries. Yeah. And do you get involved in that? Oh, yes, quite often. There's many, just Google medical tourism, mm-hmm. and you're going to come up with tons of companies. The difference, I think, is that with and most medical tourism companies aren't going to like that I say this, but they're the middleman. And, of course, they're going to take a big chunk. Yeah. And they also don't let you speak directly with the destination or the doctor. Where with me, I'm in touch with the doctor. I'm in the destination. There's not a big commission involved because I work in a different way with my doctors in the hospitals. So yeah, I'm kind of all about cutting out that middleman. Good. So yeah, we do quite a few. We do quite a few.
How do you figure out like price schedules and stuff like that? Do people, obviously they ask before they get it done?
Well, they write to me and tell me what they want done, and it depends on it depends on the procedure.
Right.
Some of them I already have. I know.
Because you do them a lot.
Because I know what the doctor's going to charge.
Yeah.
We have a lot of package prices with, if somebody needs to come to have a hernia, I already know what that doctor's package is with the hospital. If somebody's going to, it just depends on what the procedure is. If it's a little bit different or there's a complication, then I just check with the doctor and then I can send it back. Send back the price to the patient.
Cool. Wow. All right. Well, what would you say is the most common procedure that's done here?
I think the most common request that I get is still for plastic surgery.
Okay.
That's the most common request. The most common procedure, still plastic surgery, bariatric surgery, a lot more hip and knee replacements.
Really? Wow.
I work with a urologist who does a lot of HIFU, prostate cancer surgery, bariatric surgery. I don't know, it just kind of varies.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay. Well, tell us about the quality of care. I mean, where are the hospitals that you deal with? We were sitting in one right now, San Javier,
Marina.
Right by the marina. Are they here in Puerto Vallarta? Are they in Guadalajara? Where are they?
Well, for the hospitals that I work with, I actually go inside. I go inside. I see the English-speaking inpatients. Of course, right now it's a little bit less because we're more in the low season. San Javier Marina, across the street from where the cruise ships dock. Also, Vallarta Medical Center on the south side of Plaza Caracol. I don't go all the time, but also Hospital Medicist on the south side. Hospital San Javier Riviera in Nuevo Vallarta. We have other good private hospitals in the area. I don't work with them, mainly because I don't have time. But they're all in the Puerto Vallarta area. Of course, there's many, many hospitals in Guadalajara, Tepic. But I'm the most familiar with this area.
Sure.
The doctors I work with, 26 of all specialties. I'm real picky about the doctors that I work with. We have every specialty available right now. Now we even have rheumatologists, geriatric. I work with a diagnostic center, MRI. It's really hard to kind of say what I do.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you do everything.
We do monthly screening clinics of all kinds, weekly speakers programs. Every year we do a huge, it's like a medical expo. Last year we had over 4,000 people attend.
Wow, really?
It's called
Puerto Vallarta, really?
Medical Matters. It's at the Hotel Marriott. 3 large rooms with speakers programs running continually. I spent a lot of time at the funeral home this year. I do assist, the family or the surviving surviving spouse when somebody passes away. I don't know.
Yeah,
every day is different.
Yeah. So the repatriation thing. So you help along with that too. I guess the whole life cycle happens here.
Yes.
In Puerto Vallarta, it's not different than any other place in the whole wide world, even though we're in paradise.
Right.
Yeah. So besides the expats that live here for years at a time, of course, we also have our fair share of snowbirds.
Right. Here
in Puerto Vallarta. They're coming from Canada. They're coming from the upper reaches of the United States. So, what kind of coverage can they get when they're longtime renters, not necessarily
for full-time residents?
Well, they're not going to be full-time. They're going to be like 6 months out of the year.
Then they should
need to do what you were talking about before.
Then they need a good traveler's insurance.
Okay.
And a traveler's insurance really needs to be purchased prior to departing their home country.
Okay.
So, for example, the ones that are going to be coming for next winter can start looking at options during the summer. And I always say this, is I think Canadians must learn in school that they need to have a traveler's insurance because it's
Really?
pretty rare that a Canadian arrives without traveler's insurance.
Huh.
It's very rare. Canadians are well prepared, and they come with a good traveler's insurance. People from the United States, not so much.
Not so much.
And it's usually they're the ones that end up in a critical situation, and then they're surprised that their Medicare supplement or their HMO doesn't pay directly outside of the United States. So it's in the summer months or prior to their vacation, whether they're coming for a month or 2 weeks or 6 months, they need to start looking at options. There's a lot of very good traveler's insurances out there. A good traveler's insurance will include an air evacuation policy in it. And as I said, Canadians are well aware of traveler's insurance, and their traveler's insurance almost always includes an air evacuation policy.
Okay. Is it expensive? Do you know? Have you looked
Traveler's
at
insurance?
Yeah, have you looked at it?
Oh, they're all very different prices.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's not cheap.
Right.
But I always, tell people cheap isn't always better.
Right.
You want one that, if you pay, $10 or $15 for a traveler's insurance, obviously they're not going to do much for you.
That might not save your life.
That's right.
Right. So you might as well, if you're thinking about like living, you might consider just getting the right kind.
One of the things I always stress to people that it's really probably one of the most important things to know is that insurance here is only accepted for inpatient services. You always have to pay out of pocket for consults, emergency room visits, medications, x-rays, lab, in any of those things. You can turn it in for reimbursement. That's not a problem. We'll help you do that. But it's only accepted as form of payment for inpatient services, normally with a minimum 24-hour stay. That's really important.
That is important.
You can't just go to the doctor and have a consult and flip out your insurance card. The receptionist is going to look at you kind of funny and say, I want money. So
Yeah. All right. So are, credit cards accepted here?
yes,
All right.
yes,
See?
of course.
All right. Right on. Bring your medical insurance and bring your credit card.
yeah.
Okay. Bring them both.
Right.
So you do get involved with the medical emergency repatriations as well, I imagine?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't do as many air evacuations as we used to because we can take care of the patient here. But
I got a
sure, we
hospital
do.
here.
I've done a few flights this season. There's different reasons why people would be air evacuated back to Canada or the United States. If it's going to be a long-term recovery, like maybe a stroke patient, and here we don't have we have hospital or home. We don't have a long-term rehab.
There's no rehab centers.
Right. So it's going to be really expensive to stay in a hospital.
Yeah.
So, it's better to go home.
Right.
And a lot of times the family wants the patient home. So then we do an air evacuation.
Okay.
And the air evacuation is very, very expensive, and it must be paid up front before that plane will even take off down the runway. So it's important to have an air evacuation policy or have your insurance include an air evac policy.
Good. All right. I think that's a great idea. We talked a little bit about having to be a citizen to get medical benefits. So if somebody was coming down here to live full time, you would suggest, getting your residency all straightened away so that you can eventually get medical insurance in Mexico?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Only if you want to have, it's up to the person if they want to be a resident,
Okay.
a permanent resident. That's a personal decision. For medical benefits, in order to apply for Seguro Popular, which would cover you only at the state hospital, which isn't all that.
Which is the horror show that Pam was just telling
it's
us.
not
All right,
necessarily a horror
okay.
show,
Not a horror show.
But it's just not, it's very different than the private system. But sometimes that's all anybody can afford.
Sure.
Then you have to have your residency. But also, there's some very good Mexican private policies.
Okay, that's what I'm
but
getting
you
at.
have, that's not a horse show, and there's some good policies. But you have to have your permanent residency.
Okay, so you do need to get that permanent residency for that.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're just doing it, what we were talking before. You're supplementing, and you're
And also, the other option, which is part of the public system, but you still have to apply. Some people think they automatically can get it, is the IMSS system. IMSS is a government program for people that are employed, Mexican workers. By law, their employers pay for them to participate in the system.
interesting.
Non-Mexicans can apply, but there's a long list of pre-existing conditions. So if one has certain pre-existing conditions, they won't qualify for it.
You better be healthy. In other
So
words.
and then they've added a lot of pre-existing conditions. So that it's kind of confusing, but that's also part of the public system.
Okay. All right. What is, I think we already talked about the most common issue that you work with day to day, which is everything. You don't really have anything special here. What type of coverage would you get if you were coming to Puerto Vallarta? We've talked, I think, a little bit about it as a visitor. What would you do?
Well, I'd make sure and have a good traveler's insurance.
Just get that travel insurance, and it doesn't really matter if you're coming for a week or a month,
have a good traveler's
just
insurance.
do it for a week, even, right? Because there are issues. There are people that get in trouble. They don't have to be long-termers to have an issue, have a medical issue. All right. What's the biggest mistake that you can make when you're buying, let's say, medical insurance in Mexico? Is there something that you would kind of tell people to stay away from, or don't do that? Or
well, you don't necessarily. You don't know. It's kind of hard to say buying medical insurance in Mexico. I'd say buying medical insurance, period, because you're not always going to buy your medical insurance in Mexico. Mm-hmm. One of the things I said in an article I wrote recently is, it's not always the case, but I say I've seen in the past, especially this past year, a policy sometimes is as good as the agent you buy it from. Some agents, and I use the term loosely, don't really know the policy. Go to a website that of many of the insurance policies. Pretty much anybody can become an agent because you make a commission on it. Some of them don't really even understand the policy. You want an agent that's going to be there to help you and that really understands the policy in case you have a claim or you have an emergency. That's really important.
Yeah.
I mean, many of them you can just go online and purchase. And that's probably okay for a short-term traveler's insurance. But if you're purchasing a year-round policy, a regular policy, you're here full-time, make sure you're with an agent that understands the policy. And that goes for an international policy or a Mexican private policy. And there are some very good agents in the area. And there's also some people that are just kind of in it to get the commission that don't really understand the policy. That's an important point.
Excellent. That's good to know. Is there...
And I don't sell insurance, by the way.
Okay.
That's really important people know.
Well, everybody's got a Google search. Do it yourselves, everybody. And you should always, follow up with these Google searches with, just find out what their record is. If it's a insurance company that's got a bad record, believe me, there will be a trail of people saying, hey, stay away from these people. So do your homework, double check before you buy the policy. And like Pamela said, get yourself somebody who's experienced, not a fly-by-night.
I do have a list of reps that I can recommend and that I work with. I can tell you which hospitals work with which insurance companies. And I can answer any questions, but I don't sell any insurance.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I'll have links for you to get a hold of Pam and ask her those questions if and when you need it. And believe me, if you're going to be coming down here, you'll have some questions for Pamela. Have we forgotten anything? Is there something that we haven't touched base on yet about medical here in Puerto Vallarta?
Oh, probably, but I can't remember. I mean, anyone's welcome to send me an email if I prefer an email over a phone call. It's really kind of hard to describe what I do. I work closely with both Canadian and U.S. consulate. The most important thing is do your homework, have an emergency plan. We do a lot of conferences. I do a conference in the fall called End of Life Decisions in Banderas Bay. That's a real uplifting topic.
Yeah, baby. That's a good one.
You know, how to die here. But those are their important topics.
Yes, you know.
We do a lot of fun, kind of topics too. I'm always looking for a few volunteers. I work with the kids with cancer. That's why when you saw my office, it looked like Sam's Club.
Yeah, it did.
I'm real proud of my doctors. I've worked with them for many years. I think they're really professional. I think they're really good people. I don't know. I think we covered everything. They're welcome to get on my newsletter list. We send a monthly newsletter of all of our clinics and our speakers programs. That's about it.
Okay. Well, I'll have all of the great links so that you can get in touch with Pamela. Send her an email. Don't pick up the phone and call her. She's
you can call if it's an emergency, but
all right,
prefer an email.
She's a busy lady, you guys. So just keep that in mind. But also remember that she's here to help. I've spoken with a lot of people in town and a lot of important people in town. And more than once, I've heard them say, Pam Thompson saved my life.
Aw.
And, I think that that says a lot about you and about how people feel about you.
Thank you.
And I just thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing all this great information with my listeners. And once again, I'll have all that information that you can get a hold of Pam on my website. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Wow, that was a lot of great information. Now, there's some main takeaways here, but one thing that we learned was there's no such thing as free medical care in Mexico. It doesn't matter how poor you are. We learned that the public system, the IMSS system, and the regional hospital is a Seguro Popular, and Seguro Popular was created for the poorest of the poor. We learned that the regional hospital is kind of a sad place, and that there are very good private hospitals in Puerto Vallarta and along the bay. We learned that Medicare and HMO supplements do not pay directly outside of the United States. We learned that air evacuation is very expensive, but very important to have it included in your insurance policy. And another takeaway I would say is just, she said, make sure that you're with an agent that understands the policy and that goes for an international policy or I should say, for an international policy or a Mexican private policy. We learned that while traveling, you should, if you're traveling to Mexico for a relatively short period of time, your best bet would be to obtain travel insurance, and that'll cover your medical emergencies. Travel insurance is generally purchased for a specific trip, and you're going to receive a set level of benefits for healthcare costs or for other emergency expenses, like the cost of an emergency evacuation. If you're staying in Mexico for a long period of time, like 6 months, you know who you are. You guys are snowbirds. You need to consult a good travel insurance agent and get good emergency medical evacuation insurance for the real crazy stuff. And for those of you who are living or working in Mexico, if you're going to be staying in Mexico for like a long period of time, like forever, like if you're retiring or if you're there for a long period for a job reassignment, you're going to need more permanent healthcare solutions. So legal residents can apply for Seguro Popular, which is a universal healthcare program. And the cost of the coverage is based on a sliding scale with premiums depending on factors like income and whether you own a home. But remember that Seguro Popular is a program that was created for the poorest of the poor. Now, you can always get a private individual Mexican insurance policy, and that's, I think, something that you should strive for if you are living there and you've got your residency. Many people living in Mexico are going to opt for the catastrophic coverage that'll cover major medical issues, and then they self-insure for the smaller ones, the smaller, less expensive issues. And like, for example, local doctor visits are very affordable, for example, in Mexico, and many choose to pay as they go. So there's all kinds of options. I'm going to have all kinds of great links to that information in the show notes for this episode of the program. And it's good to know that Pamela Thompson works with a total of 26 doctors, all of them different kinds of specialties. And I have their pictures and I have their specialties listed in my show notes. And you can find them also on Pam Thompson's website at www.healthcareresourcepv.com. I've got a link to that in my show notes as well. You can also Google Pamela Thompson, Puerto Vallarta, and you will find all that information. She has all the answers to your healthcare needs, as I said, in Puerto Vallarta and all along the Bahia de Banderas. Well, I hope that you got as much out of this conversation as I did. And Pamela Thompson, you are a very special person indeed. And the people of Puerto Vallarta are just so lucky to have you working for them. If you want to put Pamela to work for you, her contact info, as I said, is available right here in my show notes at www.portavallartatravelshow.com, episode 23. Well, we are through for today, and I hope you enjoyed our talk with Pamela Thompson of Healthcare Resources, Puerto Vallarta. Next week, stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and more surprises. Until then, remember, this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and your suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. Remember, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to vallartainfo.com, that's JR's website, and reserve your tour right through him, right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition, my friends. His experience and on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thank you, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you're going to be using someone else, so just do it, really. And when you do take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And once again, if you like this podcast, please take the time and subscribe. Give me a good review on iTunes if you would. That way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So, thanks to Pamela Thompson. Check out the links to her website, her blog, at my website at www.portavallartatravelshow.com, episode 23. I have pictures of most of her doctors and links to their information too. And also, I have a transcription of the conversation with Pamela in the show notes as well. So just feel free to read them, listen, and share with all your friends. Remember, Include a good travel insurance policy with your next trip to Mexico, and don't leave home without it. Really. And hey, thanks to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for all of you to slow down, be kind, and live the Viar-Toe lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
De Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. Solo camino, eterno por la playa, me encuentro junto al río, cuando todo está en calma, pronto cae la noche, me brillas Puerto Vallarta, samba de Puerto Vallarta.